Welcome to Wine with HR. I'm Jules.
Hey there, I'm Trish.
Lawyers turned HR professionals. Through our company, Monarch Endeavors, we guide employers through their oh shit moments with their employees.
In this podcast, we will discuss some of the most common and commonly frustrating HR problems while enjoying our favorite adult beverage, wine.
So sit back, grab a glass if you choose, and join us as we think about and drink about all things HR. Welcome to this week's episode of Wine with HR. In this episode, we are talking about customers or clients, however you define them, behaving badly and what your responsibility is to your employees when this happens. So most companies know that they have to protect their employees from harassment, discrimination, and workplace violence within their organization. But not all employers realize that they have to protect their employees from these same threats when they come from outside the organization. And that can obviously be tricky because if it's a customer or a client and it's a valued customer or client, then you have to tackle it with some diplomacy.
Ooh, good word.
And some deft tactics. But your number one priority is protecting your employee. So today, that's what we're going to be talking about. And if you already have a pit in your stomach, let's take a step back, take the edge off, and start with our discussion of what we're drinking. So Trish, what's in your glass today? She's drinking, everybody. You can't see her.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were still taking the edge off. All right, sorry. I was taking the edge off. Look, I took it. You said it. I did it. I'm a very...
I like it.
So, I am drinking today a Pinot Grigio. It's called the Beach House. Something that Will picked up because, of course, I once again didn't have time, just got home again from my parents' house. But I love what the label says. Are you ready? Lazy days, long sunsets, rich and smooth.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I know why he picked this one. Plus, he loves Pinot Grigio.
So.
Yeah. So it tastes like a feisty Italian affair packed with peachy gusto, pineapple zeal, and citrus zing, finishing with satisfying fruity freshness. So it goes with almost anything, both indoors and out, with a particular affinity to all things Italian. Think pasta, pizza, and passion. Woo, woo. Woo. So the one thing it doesn't go well with is garlic, because I had garlic with part of my dinner tonight. And the very first taste, I was like, oh God, what did you buy? But now, true, I know. He's like, you have no poker face whatsoever. But now that I've had a couple of sips, it's actually starting to appeal to me. And I can taste more of the citrus, the zippiness. I think that I can really see this going well with like something like a seafood pasta or something of that kind of realm. So
sans garlic.
Oh, yes. Well, no, you can't. You can't forget the garlic, but the creaminess, I think would balance it. We're gonna go with that because we can't have it without garlic. Garlic is life.
Truth.
What about you, Jules? Now that I have just...
Well, so I think you're going to find this very interesting. Yeah. So I am drinking a boxed wine. Now, as much as the algorithms on social media freak me out sometimes, they also sometimes deliver you a gem. And so it showed up in my feed. It's called Grazie wine, Gratsi. It's boxed wine. It's 0 sugar. Yes. They only have white, red, and rosé. It is more expensive than your typical boxed wine. It is Italian. Grazie means living slowly. So I tried the white. Yes, and I love it. So it is here's the description. It is a dry, balanced white wine, a refreshing, fruity white wine blend with a strong base of Sauvignon Blanc.
Yeah. Shocker.
I know. Notes of fruits and herbs, crisp acids with a clean and dry finish. Pairs well with lamb kebabs or homemade margarita pizza.
Ooh.
Made from Washington grapes grown in the Greater Columbia River and Yakima Valleys, if I said that correctly. But it is so nice. It's sort of like a Chenin Blanc. So it's got that Sauvignon Blanc base, but it doesn't have quite the same zippiness or bitey edge. It's a little bit more smoothed out.
Ooh.
And it's just really lovely. So I'm so excited because it lasts for, they said, 6 weeks once you open it. And I'm just thrilled to find a box wine that I like.
Well, this is so exciting.
Right? So thanks, Grazie. I'll put the name in the show notes.
Another one I'm going to have to explore.
Right? Yeah. We'll see. So I after I got this one, because I only wanted to order one to make sure I liked it. So I ordered another white and the rosé because it's still summer. But then I want to try the red because the red has gotten lots of good reviews. So
nice. Maybe I should order the red and bring it next time we meet.
All right. Well, you know what time it is, Trish?
Stat time. Whoop, whoop. No. Oh boy, here we go. We really do need some stat time music so we don't have to make up our own each time. All right. So to get us started on our conversation, just a quick reminder, this is not just a single industry problem. This happens throughout every single industry. We're going to focus with these stats mostly on customer service workers because, big surprise, they're the ones who take a lot of it. But just because we're using that as an example doesn't mean that this doesn't go into your industry as well. Keep in mind, though we are not too far out from having experienced that big Microsoft meltdown a few weeks ago. I am one of the people that was impacted. My flight got canceled. And when I spoke to the professionals at Delta, they were absolutely incredible working with me to try to find alternate flights. And they just went above and beyond. And I thanked the person on the other line, by the way, after waiting almost 3 hours to talk to someone.
Woo!
Yeah, that's how bad it was. So I can see why people were upset, but the person actually thanked me. They said, "Do you know that you're one of the only people that I've talked to today who hasn't screamed and yelled at me? Thank you so much for being kind." And I said, "Well, it's not your fault. Like, you're not the one who caused this. Why would I yell at you?" Like, I understand people get frustrated. But honest to goodness, these are people who are just trying to do their job and bring home a paycheck to support their family. And for people to...
Right. And sorry to interrupt you,
no,
but
please do.
Probably not a very big paycheck.
Yes.
Customer service people don't get paid all that much.
No.
Not nearly enough.
Not nearly enough. They take so much abuse. So let's look at the kind of abuse we're talking about. 40% of customer service workers reported experiencing abuse or hostility from customers, with over 90% reporting an increase in those incidents over this last year. Like, what?
And that 40% seems low to me. My guess is it's higher than that.
I would agree. My guess is that people were afraid to respond because they were, this imminent retaliation, right? Or somehow this will get back, or, yep, for sure. 85% of respondents in that same survey also said they were actively or passively seeking new opportunities outside of customer service. with 36% contemplating just leaving the industry altogether. So like, done, goodbye. And what are y'all going to do if you don't have those people to talk to help, right?
Right. Yep.
Over a 1-year period from 22 to 23, 43% of customer service workers said they endured verbal abuse, including screaming and swearing. 17% faced threats of physical violence, and 36% experienced customers threatening their job security. Now, Julie, if you will, I'd like to switch industries a little bit because I have more stats, but not only do I have more stats, I want everybody to think about a personal experience recently. Have you been to a hospital? Have you been to some sort of a healthcare provider? Have you noticed all over the hospitals or providers, they now have all sorts of information that says, we will not tolerate abuse of our employees. Even if you I called the hospital the other day and it said, if you engage in any sort of verbal abuse with our employees, we have the right to end the call. We do not accept that. On behalf of our employees, they work hard. This is not acceptable. So the stats I have for you then, healthcare workers are 5 times more likely to sustain workplace violence injuries than other professions. And going to what Julie said earlier, underreported, I bet. In 2019, now think about it. We're talking 2019. We've had 5 years to get worse. A survey on healthcare crime found that 78% of assaults, aggravated assaults, and 88% of all assaults that occurred in hospitals were from patients and families towards the people that are providing care for their loved ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Julie, I don't even know where to go after those kind of stats. Give me some love, some direction, some insight here.
Well, unfortunately, it is true. Like OSHA has a lot of information on the healthcare industry and workplace violence because, especially since the pandemic, it has gotten really, really bad and critical for healthcare workers. And to your point, like, you get why people are frustrated. They're dealing with, their loved one is sick or they're sick themselves. And for anybody who's ever dealt with any sort of medical sort of thing, it is a frustrating process. There's just no 2 ways about it. But for whatever reason in our society, and it's probably a lot of the reasons that we've talked about on other episodes, civility, incivility, all of those types of things, people have somehow decided that they have permission to take it out on whoever's within striking range. It's like my cats. So, it's like Luna.
Segue.
You know Luna.
Yes.
Yeah. No, you know Luna. But this is exactly what it is. So, for our listeners out there, I have 3 cats. I have Luna, who is a stray that showed up on our doorstep during COVID and said, I would like to live here now. And we brought her in. And she, for a little scrappy 7.5-pound cat, is a terror to other cats. Like, she likes her humans, but we had 2 senior cats and she came in and was like, I don't care that you've been here for like 16 years. It's my house, and she would swat at them whenever they went past and hiss. And she's feisty. And then after Winton and Karma passed, we got 2 kittens and we thought, well, maybe with kittens, her maternal instinct will come out. No, there is none. No maternal instinct.
Maternal what?
Yeah. So, whatever. We sort of got to a place of harmony. And then about a month and a half ago, we had a stray show up on the doorstep. We brought the stray in. We fostered it. We found it a good home. She was not happy about it. And when she was reminded of the cat's presence, she turned around and took it out on whoever was closest to her. And we currently have another stray cat that has shown up on our front porch because word is out clearly that, they can get food and shelter here. So this cat likes to look in the window at her and she goes crazy. And then she turns around and again, whoever is within striking distance. So Nigel gets smacked, Penelope gets smacked. She's even smacked me, so it's the same kind of thing. Like, I hate to compare humans to cats, but it's like that same behavior where it's just like, I don't know what to do with all this pent up angst. So I'm just going to take it out on whoever is standing in front of me. And unfortunately, that often tends to be the healthcare worker or the customer service person or, whoever is right. The other cat. So and I have to say,
she's a sweetheart. She really is.
She can be. Yeah. She can be. She's just like, no more cats in this house, man. But I think that the last several years, and we talked about this on our recent episode about civility, and I hear the wine pouring. I know. I was thinking I need a refill too.
I was trying to be very quiet.
Yeah. On our Don't Be a Dick episode, we talked about that. But I think, unfortunately, people have learned, or permission has been granted for people to be dicks. And so it's more accepted, not by everybody, and it shouldn't be, but it is.
Right.
And so, unfortunately, sometimes that means our employees get the brunt of it. And that's what we want to bring it back around to, because that's what we're trying to focus on. And so the stats that you shared, Trish, deal more with workplace violence, but we also need to be careful about our employees who are experiencing bullying, harassment, or discrimination at the hands of customers or clients as well. And it happens all the time. The reason that we're doing this episode is because I just had another incident happen with a client where one of their customers has been making sexually explicit remarks to one of my client's employees. And it's male on male. And, a lot of people will sort of play off as, well, they're just being guys or they're just joking or whatever. But if it's harassment, it's harassment.
Right.
And it was making this employee very uncomfortable. But one of the trickiest parts about it is that oftentimes employees don't report customer or client harassment or discrimination because they, one, don't think anything can be done about it because the employer doesn't have control over this customer, or two, they don't think that anything will be done about it because the customer is always right, as the saying goes, right?
All right.
Well, the customer is not always right. And the EEOC has put out guidance about this, and we will, of course, put the link in our show notes. But they issued a April 2024 study on harassment, and they specifically say, now this is a very, very long study, so it's hundreds of pages long, but they specifically say that employees are further protected against unlawful harassment by non-employees, such as independent contractors, customers, including hotel guests, airline passengers and shoppers, students, hospital patients, and nursing home residents and clients of the employer. So they give a couple of examples, which I thought would be interesting for us to talk about. So the first one is harassment by a non-employee. So Howard works as a stocker for a company that sells snacks and beverages in vending machines on customer premises. At a hospital where Howard is assigned to stock the vending machines, he is harassed daily by a hospital employee who knows Howard's schedule and waits at the vending machines for him to arrive. The hospital employee calls him, excuse my language, Homo Howard, propositions him, and makes lewd and vulgar sexual comments to him every time the hospital employee sees him. Howard reports this harassment to his employer. Although the harasser is not employed by Howard's employer, because Howard's employer is aware of the sex-based harassment, it has a legal obligation to correct the harassment. Second example. While cleaning a guest room, Paloma, a housekeeper at a hotel, is cornered by a naked guest who propositions her for sex. Paloma immediately reports this conduct to her supervisor. Again, although the guest is not an employee of the hotel, because Paloma's employer is aware of the sex-based harassment, it has a legal obligation to correct the harassment. Now, some of you may think that those examples are extreme, but trust me, I've worked with clients who have experienced almost those identical situations. Yes, they do happen.
I know.
And with that, I'm just gonna drop the mic and turn it over to Trish to get her thoughts on those scenarios. And
I'm too busy trying to pick my jaw up off the floor. Y'all, this is where your training comes in. Okay. Julie and I are constantly talking to you about the need to do harassment training, the need to do, well, any kind of training, but harassment training for sure. I heard you pouring.
I know.
It requires it for this. Your employees, this is why Julie and I say that those one-size-fits-all harassment trainings really are not the way to go. Your employees need to know that they can rely on you. They should know when you're doing these trainings, they should know what is acceptable behavior and what isn't, of course, within the workplace. That is a given. But what about with your customers? Are there examples that we could provide or someone could provide to them so that they understand that they are going to be safe, that they're going to be protected? I mean, imagine being in a situation where someone is speaking to you using that kind of homophobic language every single day. Imagine having a naked person that you don't know propositioning you and you are in a room. Like, that is scary. So if your employees don't know that what you feel, that you're going to protect them, what your obligations are, what you will do to keep them safe, what are they going to do? They're probably going to quit, and you're not going to ever know why. They are going to maybe experience something worse because they don't realize that they have the ability to, everybody realizes that they have the ability to say no, of course, but then people manage to flip things around and say, go ahead, try it. I'll just tell them you did this. And for them to be able to say, my employer has given me training in this, and I know they're going to support me. I know that my employer has done this. Or what is acceptable behavior? How would you like them to talk to that employee? Or to that customer? Because you don't want your employees just to haul off and say all sorts of vulgar things themselves. You want them to have a polite answer, but also a very definitive back off. This is not acceptable. And so I guess that is where I am at this point is, what can our employers do? And Julie, I think you might want to start us off on that.
Sure. Well, I think you already did. So you had a great couple of tips already. But I think the first one is what you already alluded to, which is make sure your employees know that your anti-harassment policy applies to customers, vendors, third parties. And if your policy doesn't specifically spell that out, then revise it and make sure it does so. And also, as Trisha mentioned, when you do your yearly training, which again, if you're not doing that, you should be.
Contact us. Shameless plug.
Right? Yeah. Yep. Yes, we do that. We even have an online course that will be readily available in about 2 weeks for that. But make sure that you include in that training that, again, the anti-harassment policy applies to vendors, customers, third parties, and goes over what employees are supposed to do if they experience harassment by a customer, a client, a third party, a vendor, whoever it might be. Because again, do not assume that your employees know that the policy applies to third parties.
I think that is so important. The other one that I would say, and just kind of piggybacking off of that and taking it a step further, y'all know what Julie and I talk about all the time, which is training your managers, right? Train your managers. So you want to make sure that your managers also have a specific training on how to handle those employee complaints about customers. Again, you guys have heard us say managers are good at their jobs, right? They are not necessarily good at management. They don't necessarily innately have the skills to be able to help their employees deal with this kind of, I will call it a traumatic experience. And so you need to give them those skills so that they don't just blow it off. Well, just put up with it. That this customer is important. They bring in $1 million of business, so you can deal with it. Toughen up. Oh, I hate that. Toughen up. No, that we have to make sure that they understand how incredibly difficult it was for their employee to bring that to them. And then they need to support them in getting down to the root of the issue and then dealing with it and cutting it off if ultimately it has to, because it will bite you. You think losing that account is a big deal? Look what happens if you don't support your employee. It'll cost you much more.
Yes. And, it's not as if we think that people are maliciously telling their employees, suck it up. This is an important account. But I think a lot of people panic. And I think that a lot of people don't. In that moment, they're just thinking, oh my God, I don't know what to do. And I am freaking out. And we can't lose this customer. And, blah, blah, blah.
Because then I'm going to get blamed.
Right. And when you can get them to take a step back and sort of look at it and say, all right, put yourself in that employee's position. I'm not obviously going to use names, but in this most recent incident with my client, I have to give that manager a lot of props because the first thing he did was reach out to HR. And he said, oh my, I do not know what to do. And as we always say to our managers out there, that's the beauty of having an HR department is you don't have to figure it out. All you have to do is call us, and it can be panic stricken, and it can be like, it was on a Friday at 4:30.
Of course it was. Of course it
was. But it's fine. I would rather have that than have them trying to handle it on their own and doing something that could lead to liability for the company or potentially damage a relationship. Whatever the case may be, because there are ways to handle these situations. And one of the things is, you train your managers how to handle complaints about customers, as you were just saying, Trisha. And then you also, with these in particular, you got to make sure the right people are brought into the loop. So this is not one where you want the leaders in the company to be blindsided that so-and-so just had a conversation with one of their most valued customers about so-and-so harassing one of their employees. You don't want them to find out about that through the grapevine.
Really? Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. Trust me, I'm sure. So you want to make sure that you bring in the appropriate people, and you may even want to have a specific HR representative that is, designated for customer or third party complaints.
Oh, that's cool.
So it might be somebody who's got more experience or who just usually more experience. They know how to run an investigation. They know how to achieve that delicate balance of asking questions of third parties without seeming like they're accusing people.
Yes.
it is a fine line that you have to walk. So you might want to consider doing that, or having like a special team that looks at customer complaints, not from the customer, but employee complaints about customers or third parties, where you've got all the right people in the mix, and it goes to them and they take a look at it. And then again, like all the things we talk about normally, they have sort of a consistent way of handling those complaints, and they know what they've done in the past, and they sort of can employ the same method and procedures so that it's more objective and less subjective.
I think that's awesome. And especially because if you think about it, your customer is probably going to be mortified that someone...
Hopefully. If not, you might want to think about whether they deserve to be a customer or
I
not.
would agree. But I mean, you would think that they would be mortified about this and then want to work with you and remedy the problem. Nobody wants someone who has that kind of behavior acting on their behalf. After all, that is what we're talking about, right? They are acting on behalf of the company that is your customer. And so when you start to think about it that way, it helps you feel, at least I believe, it helps me feel a little more confident in what I'm saying to them, because I know if it were me, I would want someone to be talking to me about anybody that represented my company that way. And so I think that if you go with that idea and you go with what we're always talking about, civility, kindness, respect, and you approach it in that way. And again, I love that idea, Jules, of having like a specific person or a team to do this. They will be those ones who have been practiced at that kind of thing and can handle those delicate situations. I think that's fantastic, as I just said.
Well, and not to mention, not only would I think that the customer would be mortified that a representative of their company had acted in this way, but chances are, if that representative is willing to engage in that kind of behavior with a vendor or who they might consider a contractor or a client, that's a loud pour. Well, she likes the wine.
I'm doing small, short pours because I don't want it to warm up in my glass. Because so
I feel that.
So that's why. And I was trying to be really quiet.
Yep, not. It's all good. I love that. I love that sound. I could fall asleep to that sound.
I could too, but I'd still probably have to get up and go to the bathroom then. So then, it kind of ruins it.
Oh, Lord. Okay, we're not going down that tangent. Okay. So anyway, where I was going with that is, if this representative of your customer is acting like that with one of your employees, they are likely doing it to their own employees.
Ooh, good point.
You will actually be doing a service to your customer or your client by telling them, because it might help them uncover behavior that could get them in trouble with their own employees. Because come on, if you're going to say that to somebody who doesn't even work for you, you probably are doing the same crap with your own employees. So,
and probably to other vendors too.
Probably, yes. Ooh. Yeah. So it's that whole thing like we talk about. If you have a problem employee, you don't transfer them and make it somebody else's problem. Like, we have to deal with the problem that's in front of us. And by ignoring it, that's one of the things we're going to tell you not to do in this situation is don't just move the employee someplace else. Don't just say like, okay, we're going to make it so you don't have to work with this person. Yes, you probably should do that because you don't want to subject that employee to further harassment, but you don't want to put another employee at risk of encountering the same thing. Like, you've got to deal with the problem. You can't just keep moving people around.
Yeah, this is not a game of chess.
No. Or even checkers.
I was just about to say that.
Do you love news about LinkedIn, Indeed, Google, and just about every other recruitment tech company out there?
Hell yeah. I'm Chad.
I'm Cheese.
We're the Chad and Cheese Podcast.
All the latest recruiting news and insights are on our show.
Dripping in snark and attitude.
Subscribe today wherever you listen to your podcasts.
We out.
The other thing, since Julie started with our do nots, we'll do a couple more do nots. And then I think, what do you think, Jules? We'll go to the what we do want you to do.
Yes.
Please do not ask the employee to put up with it. Please do not ask them to not say anything. Like, listen, I know this was uncomfortable, but please don't say anything. We really need this account. And, whatever the case may be. No. The big N-O. Y'all listened, I hope, to the episode with our friends from That's a Hard No. So this is one of those cases. This is a hard no.
Yeah. Yes. And we will come back to, when we get to the do's, I'm going to share one more don't. But when we get to the do's, we will talk about giving people scripts so that they have a professional way to respond. But
love it.
Before we get there, the other thing you want to be really, really careful of is doing something to your employee that may look like it's retaliatory, because that would put you in even greater jeopardy of being sued. And I will share a story with you that demonstrates this. So I had a case back in the day where it involved a janitorial company who, sent its employees out to various customer locations to clean their offices. And one of their female employees complained that an employee of a customer was sexually harassing her. And they suspended the employee.
What?
Now, yes. Now, they called it a paid suspension. So they thought they made it okay. And it said in their handbook, if you file, not in these exact words, but it basically said, if you file a complaint, you will be suspended.
Lord have mercy.
Right. And so I get this case and I, call them up and I have a conversation, which basically amounted to get out your checkbook because you're going to have to write a check. And you might as well do it now when we can do it for less money than 6 months from now.
Right.
And they were like, but we paid this person, so we don't really understand what the problem is. I'm like, the problem is you called it a suspension. In no world is suspension not considered a punitive action. And so she filed a complaint and you suspended her. So that looks like retaliation.
100%.
So you want to be really careful. So you don't want to, you don't want to just move the employee, because what if you can't move them to some place that is basically the equivalent of where they were? So let's say now they have a half-hour commute, or they're in a smaller location where they don't have as much supervisory authority, or they are, whatever, in the place that everybody hates, that nobody ever wants to be assigned to, if it's anything where they could say, where that employee could say, hey, I filed a complaint and then this bad thing happened to me, that could create greater liability for you. So you've got to be really careful about that. You don't want to just move them to solve your immediate problem. You've got to think about what is in the best interest of that employee.
And I would say, even if they do want to be moved, wouldn't you recommend notating this was at the request of the employee?
Absolutely.
Documenting that so that they can say, like, I don't want to be in this situation anymore, or I don't want to be exposed to this. Can you move me? Documenting that will help just in case that comes back.
Absolutely. And then, again, like sort of looking at if we do move this person, how do we keep things as even as possible to what they are currently, the role they're currently in?
Right. Absolutely. Hey, look, I'm saying it too. We're both like, absolutely. We just agree so well.
Yes. All right. So let's get back to the do's. What's another do?
Oh, how about the basic one? Be honest about what happened. Like, don't try to make it worse than it was. Don't try to make it better than it was. Make sure that you grab all of the facts from that employee and then present those facts in a very neutral and unbiased fashion to whomever it is that you're speaking to. That would be my first do.
Yes. So when you are having a conversation with the customer, to Trisha's point, you want to be as neutral as possible. So you're not going in hot. You're not going in like, oh my God, your employee did da 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 da. But you're also, which I think is the more important point, and probably what happens more often, you're not minimizing what happened either. So you want to make sure that you have your conversation planned. Trisha and I talk about preparation all the time. This is definitely a situation where you do not want to go in not knowing what you're going to say. But also, you want to know ahead of time what you want as a result from that initial conversation, which may be different than what you want as the final result. But you want to make sure initially, what do you want? Do you want them to acknowledge that they understand your concerns and they're going to conduct an investigation? Do you want them to just hear you out? Do you want them to take action against this employee? Do you want them to offer solutions about how to handle this? What are you looking for from that initial conversation? And then also decide ahead of time how far you're willing to go. Like if they don't respond in the way that you want, are you willing to tell them, then we can no longer have you as a customer?
Sayonara.
And that may not be where you're willing to go right off the bat, but you got to know that at the beginning. So begin with the ending in mind, right? Isn't that the Franklin Planner guy?
Yes. Yes.
What's his name?
Habit number 2 of highly effective.
Oh.
Seven. You're right. 7 of highly effective. You're right.
Yeah.
But, and I think that is, it is 7. You're right. It's an incredible, I had to think about it going through. I think that is what we're talking about is always being prepared. And this is what I talk to my classes about too, especially when we're looking at investigations. We're not telling you to come up with an end. We're not telling you to come up with anything. What we're telling you is be prepared for every possible outcome and what you're willing to do or not do as a result of those outcomes. You need to look at it kind of like a Rubik's Cube, right? And flip it around and turn it and twist it and look at all different sides so that you have a full understanding of what you may get to. And really talk about it and understand as a company or as a group, whoever's involved, where it is that you want to go and what you're willing to do. Not only that, honestly, just you guys be objective. Listen to what they have to say too. You are hot. You are not happy based on what your employee experienced. And I appreciate that, but don't use that as a basis for attacks. Really listen and see what they're offering. I think that is something we start making up scenarios in our heads about how we're going to defend our employee and they're not going to do this and they're not going to do that. And someone starts talking and you just assume that they're going into this place because you practiced and planned for it. But listen, make sure you're listening with that open mind.
I think the other important thing is that you have to conduct an investigation just like you would if this was an internal complaint. So if it was an employee complaining about another employee harassing them, you would conduct an investigation. It's the same exact thing. And I have seen a lot of employers not do this because they think they don't have the right or they don't have the authority to question people outside of their organization. But you absolutely do. Again, you may have to change your tactics a little bit. You might have to be a little more subtle about things. You might have to be a little bit more, less assertive, I guess. But you have the right to figure out what happened to your employee.
Absolutely.
And if you do what Trisha was saying, where you're acting, from a neutral point, you're being objective, you're just asking questions, then again, you absolutely have the right to do that. And you have the obligation to do that because you have the obligation to protect your employee from harassment, discrimination, workplace violence, wherever it comes from. So you need to make sure that you're following whatever your investigative policy is, even when it involves somebody outside of your organization. And I'm going to give one more little plug for us. If you ever find yourself in that situation and you're like, I don't know how to do this, and I don't even know who I could talk to or what sort of documents I could ask for or whatever, we happen to have an investigation boot camp. And Trisha and I both do independent third-party investigations. So, give us a call. We're here for you.
Funny, Julie. That's exactly where I was about to go to. Just as an example, Julie and I were involved in a third-party investigation that was involving a hostile work environment complaint. It had 3 separate allegations that this person was making or incidents related to hostile work environment. And we, at one point, I had interviewed, I think it was 10 or 12 employees. And when I got to the last employee, I asked them, because I wanted to know, do you know why you're here? And the person said, we have no clue. I know we're not supposed to be talking about it, but everybody's trying to figure out what it is you're investigating and no one has any idea. But we know that there's something. And I was just like, one of those moments where you're doing a dance in your head, because that's what we're talking about. When Julie's talking about these questions that you can ask people that really do tell the full story, even though they're not as direct as maybe you'd like to be, you can still learn so much information. So not only do we have that investigative boot camp, but Julie and I, if you really feel like you need that independent third party, we can absolutely do that for you and glean some knowledge that maybe you wouldn't be able to.
Yeah. So my last tip that I have is, I mentioned it before, but giving people scripts. So particularly if you do work in an industry where your employees are more subject to abuse or harassment from customers or clients. So like healthcare, like customer service, whatever it may be. But again, don't assume just because you're not customer facing that your employees aren't being harassed or abused or, discriminated against by third parties. But particularly in those industries where it's more common, when you're doing the training with your employees, it can be really helpful to give them scripts. So I know we've talked about this on other episodes because I like to give people scripts because I have found that when people are caught off guard, they freeze. And that is a perfectly normal human reaction. I've done it. Trisha's done it. We've all done it. But if you have given people a script and you have had them practice it, then it's muscle memory.
Yep.
And so in the moment, they can pull that from the back of their brain and say it. And that can be really helpful. And so I'll give a quick example, but I had a client back in my lawyering days who had approached me, and they owned a court reporting agency. Now, court reporters, for the most part, do tend to be female. And they were having issues with their female court reporters being harassed by attorneys, of course, because, do as we say, not as we do.
Right.
And there were like graphic comments made to these women, And so the owners of this court reporting agency had said to me, like, we want to empower our employees. We want them to know that we are not saying they have to put up with this. Like, on the contrary, we don't want them to put up with this, but we want them to know how to respond in the moment. So we ended up doing a workshop where we went over how to handle those situations and what specifically to say. And it was really interesting because you might be thinking like, well, I would know what to say. Okay, when it's in a professional setting, all bets are off because you freeze because you're not allowed to do certain things or say certain things, right?
And emotions are so high, right?
Right. And there was this one woman in particular who said, if this male attorney had said what he said to me in a bar, I would have smacked him.
Yes.
Right? She's like, I would have laid him out. But she's like, but I was at work.
Right.
I was in a professional setting and I didn't know what to do. That is why scripts are so important, because if you can give them the words. So instead of saying like, what did he bleep, 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 bleep? They say like, I'm sorry, did I hear you correctly? Did you just say to me, etc., whatever it was? Or, you can teach them, and you can teach people various ways because everybody deals with situations differently. So you can have sort of a humorous response, which is like, oh, I must have heard you wrong. I know you did not just ask me out, whatever the case may be. Or I'm sorry, what? Or hey, you know what? That comment made me really uncomfortable and I'm asking you to stop. Just something like that. But if you give them scripts, then they feel empowered because one, you've reinforced that they do not have to put up with that. And two, you've given them the right words to say that aren't going to get them in trouble, because that's what's always in the back of everybody's mind. If I speak up, I'm going to get in trouble for telling a customer off. So scripts can be super, super helpful.
And I want to just reiterate kind of what you said earlier about the muscle memory. Whether you were, and I use this with my classes too, an athlete or a mathlete. What did you do? Well, truth, right? What did we do?
Right. You practice.
You practice. And I was a swimmer halfway through college. You know that, Jules. Like halfway through college, I swam. And my muscles, if I start to envision a race that I used to swim, still twitch. I can still feel that. And it's the same thing with this. The more you practice, you give them the scripts, you play, role play. Everybody is like, oh, role play is awful. But like the more you do it and the more people start giggling, the more they get comfortable with it, the more they will be able to deal with these situations. That is what practice is for. It's so that your mind and your body know what to do when they get into the real life active situation. Look, our kids have to go through fire drills. They have to go through active shooter drills, something we never had to deal with, tornado drills. Like, there's a reason they do this. So it isn't that far-fetched for you to think of, oh, I'm going to provide these scripts and not just provide them, practice. Go through and really give them the opportunity to laugh and giggle and then ultimately get comfortable, because when it comes time, they need to be comfortable stating that language that you provided to them, that important language. All right, I'm stepping off my soapbox.
Okay. No, but I'm going to take this opportunity to share a story that involves both Trisha and I that I think people might find funny. So
I am
Trisha's like,
so
oh,
afraid.
crap. Don't be afraid. You're going to know as soon as I start telling it.
Okay.
So I believe it was our junior or senior year. For those of you who may just be joining us, Trisha and I went to the same college. Senior year? It was probably senior year.
I don't know yet.
Trisha and I were taking a first aid class.
Oh, yeah. I think that was our junior year.
Junior year. Okay. So we are taking a first aid class. I swear to God, this all comes back to what we've been talking about.
It really does.
Bear with me for a second. So we are taking this first aid class. It's a semester long. So each week, we're doing something about a new type of injury and what sort of first aid you provide. And our professor would tell somebody at the beginning of class to fall over and pretend to faint. And then we would have to jump into action and say what we were going to do and do the ABCs and call 911 and, blah, 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 blah. Well, it was fake and we all knew it was fake. So anyway, fast forward 5-6 weeks into class, our topic that week was impaled objects. And we are watching a video of somebody's eye being impaled. And do you remember that? Do you remember?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. I was with you. Yeah, I was with you.
Okay. So we're watching this video, and one of our classmates falls out of his chair and faints.
Could not handle the video.
Right. Yes. But we all think that it's just the professor having told somebody to play faint and fall over. So we all start laughing initially, like, ha, 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 ha. And then we're like, oh, this is real. But because he had done that multiple times, we snapped into action and we were like, all right, somebody called 911. And then we did the ABCs and we did all that. And because he had drummed it into our head what we were supposed to do. So it is so true that even though it feels fake, your mind doesn't know that. It's like when you hear about, we got the Olympics going on right now. You hear about premier athletes doing this all the time. They picture it in their head.
That's what I was
picture
talking
themselves.
About.
Yes, winning the gold medal, or they picture themselves breaking that new record or whatever it is. And then it happens. So don't downplay it just because it feels awkward and weird and it's uncomfortable and nobody wants to do it. It makes a huge difference. And it can really help your employees if they ever find themselves in one of the situations we've been talking about.
Well, and when we talk about in our investigation boot camps, when we practice these kind of things, it really is fun to see people say afterwards, wow, I do interviews all the time, but I never experienced this. Or because I was in this perspective, I learned X. Even lawyers that have been trained really will sit there and go, wow, as an HR professional, you guys have to ask things differently than we do. And so to have that kind of understanding about what we're asking people to do or where we're going with it. And so my whole point of getting into that is that everybody can benefit from this, from the most experienced to the new experience, the people that are new to an experience. And as silly as it may seem, ultimately everybody seems to get the benefits from it.
Well, and the most important thing is it gives your employees confidence about how to respond in an uncomfortable situation. And it reinforces, going back to where we started from. So finally bringing it back around, people. Bringing it back around. But coming back to where we started from, it shows your employees that you have their back and that they do not have to put up with bad behavior from anyone, including your best customer.
And that is a mic drop moment.
Yes, that is a mic drop moment. So with that, before we wrap it up, Trish, any final thoughts?
I will implore you from a personal perspective, everybody who's out there, put yourself in someone else's shoes. Even though we're talking about people misbehaving or treating your employees badly, remember that you also could be the one who is treating someone else's employee badly. So I know you get frustrated. I know I get frustrated, but ultimately we have to understand that there are things that are out of people's control, and even if it is within their control, it doesn't mean that we can abuse them. And that kind of abuse creates a lot of sadness, a lot of turnover. And going at it from let me go from the medical perspective. You think that abusing nurses, doctors, people that work in the hospital, whatever staff level they are, do you really think that that is going to improve the care? And the answer, of course, is no. What it's doing, as we've talked about in previous episodes, is driving people from that particular type of work. And so now you're just making it worse on yourself. So breathe, help your employees, and ultimately help yourself. So that's my final moment.
My final thought would just be, again, for the managers out there who are listening, if you find yourself in a situation where one of your employees is being treated badly by a customer, you don't have to figure it out on your own. Call HR. And for our HR professionals out there, if you get that call and you are like, WTF, what do I do? You are not alone either, because we are here for you. So,
heck yeah.
With that, how is your Pinot Grigio treating you? And have you finished the bottle?
Not quite. But again, and I know that I have been accused of not sharing with Will ahead of time, but I did. I poured him a very large glass ahead of time so that I wouldn't finish the bottle on him. But no, I have enough to do our promo.
Oh, yeah. Oh, crap. Yeah, I got to save some.
See? No, I know. It is actually really refreshing. I do kind of want to go down to the lake and watch the sunset, not going to lie. But I won't.
I can understand that. I can understand that. With the name and the description, it all sounds lovely.
Right? We'll just watch it from here.
I am still loving mine. The other thing I have to tell you is, and I can verify that this is true, because it has 0 sugar, you don't get the wine hangover. So, for our listeners out there who like to have more than a glass, or 2, or 5, whatever,
Well, I can't imagine that would work.
Yeah. Okay, that might be pushing it, but it is just very refreshing. And even one of my friends who does not love white wine had it the other day and was like, this is really good. So grazie, nice. Well done.
Well done, grazie.
Anyway, all right.
Question, Jules, 0 sugar or 0 added sugar?
It's a 0 sugar.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Because I did double check that today, but it says no, 0 sugar. So
nice. Yeah. All righty.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us for this episode of Wine with HR. We love you all. And we hope that as both a customer and as a vendor or contractor or whatever, you are treating people kindly and with grace and with dignity and respect. And let's all be good humans.
Yes. And if you forgot how to do all of that, check out our past episodes, follow us on social, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Cheers.